Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to October 12th, 2020 Community Development Block Grant Committee meeting. Due to evolving situation to COVID-19 and health recommendations from LA County and Health Department, the committee meeting will be available to public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting. This meeting can be viewed on local cable, Charter Cable Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. You may also streamline online through our websites www.glendale.california.gov by scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the page and selecting live streaming, which is the third icon from the left. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. Please do not call in advance of the agenda item. With this being said, may I have a roll call, please?
Committee members Garibian?
Here.
Thank you. Kazarian?
Here.
Quinones Gabrielian?
Here.
Vice Chair Armenian?
Present.
Chair Avedisian?
Yes.
The agenda for the October 12, 2020 special meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on or before Friday, October 9, 2020 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2 is introductions and presentations. At A is recognition of Lila Ramirez for 7 years of service to the CDBG Advisory Committee.
Good afternoon, Chair Avedisian, members of the Advisory Committee. Today, we'd like to recognize our outgoing member of the CDBG Advisory Committee, Lila Ramirez. Lila has been an integral part of this committee for the past 7 years, and over the years, Lila has served as chair and vice chair. She's been an active member in Glendale civic community. She's sat on many boards, commissions, and associations, such as the Glendale Chamber of Commerce, Hispanic Business and Professional Association, the Rosmoyne Mountain Homeowners Association, and she was part of the City of Glendale's Charter Revision Study Committee. Lila is a retired business executive and former director of human resources. And with that, she brought a wealth of knowledge to make really important funding recommendations while as a member of the CDBG Advisory Committee. I'm going to turn this presentation over to Chair Avedisian to present the plaque.
Good afternoon. We're going to be presenting this plaque to committee member Lila Ramirez. From the City of Glendale, I'm going to read the plaque. With gratitude for your years of service, dedicated service to the CDBG Advisory Committee, years 2013 through 2020 by City of Glendale. Ms. Leila, I'm sure this is your plaque. The staff will get this plaque to you within the next couple of days. With that, I'm going to start and want to thank you for your service as a chair and colleague that worked with you last few years. It's been an honor to work with you, very dedicated, detail-oriented person. We had some battles, but then again, we all came together and did the right thing, and we worked together to make our community organizations do their thing for our community. So I appreciate your hard work. I wish you well and continuous your service throughout the city in different levels and different positions. Thank you. Committee members, if anyone wants to make any comments, please go ahead. Mr. Armenian.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, also express my thanks to committee member Ramirez. I've known Lila for a long time. She's in the neighborhood near me. We've served together in the Rosmoyne Mountain Homeowners Association and in other capacities. Lila's always brought her best to the community and shown what it's like to be an active member, to think of the greater good. And as Chair Avdisian said, we didn't always agree on everything. We didn't always see eye to eye on everything, but I really appreciate the alternative points of view, because it's through that deliberation process that we get to the best decisions. And we have to be very open-minded with each other on this commission to express all those points of view, so that we can always look for the greater good in the community. And I know Lila's heart is always with that greater good. So I really appreciate serving on this commission with her. She's taught me a lot, and I wish her the best. I know that she won't stop being active, because that's just who she is. And I look forward to seeing her contributions in other parts of our community. Thank you, Lila, very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can you see me, Mr. Chair of Edition?
Go ahead, Mr. Arabian.
Yeah, I want to also thank Lila for a few. Obviously, I don't want to repeat what my colleague said, but one of the main things was she sat next to me, or I sat next to her the last 2 or 3 years. So it was even more pleasant having her next to me, so we could sometimes just whisper to each other for any helps or anywhere we're stuck. And I appreciate her seniority that showed me during the last 3 years that I came in. And again, as my colleagues mentioned, having those differences actually was a healthy one, and we're able to come to conclusion by seeing different point of views. And I appreciated her professionalism and her class that she kept it during the meetings the entire time. I appreciate it and wish her best of luck on all her future plans.
Thank you. Mr. Ghazarian.
Thank you for Ramirez. Thank you for your all hard work for the city of Glendale. We do appreciate what you did for the city, and thank you and good luck.
Yeah, I think we have Ms. Ramirez on the call.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Chair Avdisian and committee members, we have CDBG advisory member Lila Ramirez on the line, and I will air her right away.
Thank you. Mrs. Ramirez?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, again, we want to thank you, and we're going to present you the plaque that I think I showed it earlier on the
I got
screen.
it. Yeah, I saw it.
Okay,
I'm watching you.
will- This will be delivered to you in the next couple of days through the staff, with the staff. But if you have any comments, if you'd like to make any comments, please do so.
Okay, you tell me when?
Go ahead.
Somebody's speaking.
It's a delay in the broadcast.
Oh, it is? Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, yes. Go ahead, we're waiting for you, Ms. Ramirez.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Abadisian, members of the committee, and staff. It is with some pride that I accept this recognition. It has been an honor to serve the city as a member and as a chair of this vital committee. This work this committee undertakes is critical to the decisions it makes. Informed decisions required for the equitable allocation of federal funds. Taxpayer funds entrusted to the city for allocation and compliance with federal law and consistent with block grant guidelines. Funds specifically designated to improve, to serve, and to primarily benefit the disadvantaged and underserved families and members of our community. It is the good work, good people. Committee work and effort supported generously by council. Thank you all, members and staff, each one of you, community volunteer or public servant. Your commitment to community is greatly appreciated. Keep up the good work. And to incoming member Anita Quiñones Gabrielian, thank you for your continued service to Glendale. You make us proud. Best regards, you all. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. You will be missed. And we wish you all the luck for everything you do, a lot of health, and continuous, I'm sure we will see you around throughout the city in different levels and different positions that you will be holding in different committees. Anyways.
Thank you,
very
dear
much.
friend.
Appreciate it. Okay, move on. What's next, please?
Next is item 2B, introduction of new CDBG Advisory Committee member, Anita Quiñones Gabrielian.
Thank you, Chair Avedisian, members of the committee. I would like to welcome and introduce committee member Quiñones Gabrielian. She has been a Glendale resident for 30 years. She attended California Polytechnic University of Pomona and received her Master's of Business Administration. Her Bachelor's of Science was completed at USC Marshall School of Business. She is a partner with CG Benefits Group, selling insurance and offering employee benefits and solutions and insurance services. She worked for 24 years with AT&T and retired as a regional vice president of external affairs for the greater Los Angeles area. She's a member of a number of boards and organizations and foundations, just to name a few. She's a board member for the Glendale College Foundation, GUST Adelante Latinos. She's an advisory board member for the Glendale Latino Association. For 15 years, she sat on the Glendale Community College Board of Trustees, and she's a lifetime member of NALEO and a current member and chair of board of directors for MAOF. I do like to welcome committee member Quiñones Gabrielian to the CDBG Advisory Committee. During our one-on-one meeting last week, I mentioned that the CDBG Advisory Committee does a lot of good work allocating federal funds to social service agencies that are in need of funding to run their programs in Glendale. And we do welcome you aboard. This is a great team that we have, and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that beautiful introduction. I do, out of respect for a company I worked for so many years, want to just say it was 34 years, almost 34 years of service. Love being here in Glendale. I'm a resident of over 30 years now. I'm a mom of 3 incredible women, adults. I know both North and South Glendale, and I am honored. Mr. Chair and all of the members of the CDBG, I am honored and I feel very privileged to serve on the Glendale CDBG Advisory Board and the Advisory Committee. I thank Councilwoman Paula Devine for her confidence in appointing me to this important committee. And I also thank all of the City Council members for supporting and confirming my appointment. Thank you to the staff for their professionalism and help in onboarding me. Here I am, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to say congratulations and thank you to my friend, Lila Ramirez, for her many years of service on the CDBG and for all of your good work in our community. One of the best things of service and serving and giving back is that one receives so much more in return. And this particular role is especially significant as we try to support many of the community organizations with this great federal funding that we get. and hopefully spread as wide and as broad as possible. But it does bring something to mind that I truly believe in. And it's a play on words. It's actually the opposite of what they said in the story, but it's a play on word from one of my favorite stories, The Count of Monte Cristo. And it's, how can I live in a world where I have everything and you have nothing? That's a little extreme, but the point is we're all happier and healthier when no one is left behind. It makes our community a better and happier place for all of us. I look forward to representing all facets of our community of Glendale to the very best of my abilities. I look forward to getting to know my colleagues on the committee and to serving with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Gabrielian. As a chair of the committee, I want to first of all welcome you. I know your background. I know how hard you've worked through, especially the Glendale College and the trustee as a trustee board. You've done a great service throughout. I'm looking forward to working with you in this committee, and I'm sure that we can all achieve more in helping our community organizations. With your experience, knowledge, and background, maybe you can sometimes help us, direct us in different ways, the ways we're thinking and planning to contribute the funding that we have. And welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gabriel.
if I may also give my welcome to Ms. Gabrielian. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Ms. Gabrielian, I just want to welcome you as well. Welcome to the board. Looking forward working with you. I heard and obviously I read your resume before this. It's outstanding. Definitely someone like you will be a great asset to the community and to the agencies and the people that the CDBG serves. So to the city of Glendale and everyone else we serve. So welcome aboard. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not,
Can I speak, Mr. Chair?
go ahead, Armenian.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Quinones Gabrielian, really look forward to your service on this committee. I know you're going to add so much value to what we do with your robust and rich experience in so many different capacities, both in the community as well as in your professional career. We have worked together, obviously, on many issues having to do with GCC, and I think you have a very in-depth knowledge of our community in many different ways in all the different parts of it. And so really look forward to learning from you and tapping into your expertise in these areas. I think you'll add a lot of value, and look forward to the many, I'm sure, robust discussions we will have in the upcoming meetings and the next funding cycle that we're about to enter into. So welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Ghazarian.
Hi, Anita Gabrielian. Welcome to the CDBG board. Hopefully, with your help, we can do pay out all the funds that we get from government to the nonprofit organization that they deserve. Hopefully, see you soon on the board. You're welcome.
Thank you also. I just want to say thank you for the warm welcome. I absolutely, again, look forward to joining this committee that has done so much good for our community, and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. What's next, please?
Next is item 3 minutes. At A is approval of the minutes of the August 31st, 2020 CDBG Advisory Committee special meeting.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for August 31st, 2020?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Armenian motion, Arabian second.
Committee members
Roll call,
Caribbean,
please.
Yes.
Azarian, Quinones Gabrielian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Armenian,
Yes.
No, that can't be.
and Chair Avedisian.
It's
Committee Member Quinones Gabrielian, this is Teresa. Just wanted to ask if you could abstain since you weren't at the last meeting.
That's fine.
yeah, I was about,
Oh,
all right,
as a
now,
matter of fact, I apologize. Committee Member Gazarian was not part of that meeting as well. Although if he did watch it, if he streamed it, you know, he could vote on it. But just wanted to put that out there.
that's right. Okay. The one
I could
meeting he
do the
was,
same. That's why I
You're-
voted, but
you're
I can
correct.
abstain on both minutes.
yes, thank you. So we have a motion and we have approval on the minutes of August 31st, with 3 ayes. Can we get a motion for the September 18th, 2020?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay.
A motion
Let me roll
to,
call, please.
a motion to approve, sorry, just to be clear.
Thank you. Committee Members Garibian,
Yes.
Gazarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Abstain.
Vice Chair Armenian,
Yes.
Chair Avedisian.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Next item, please. Oral
Item 4,
communication.
oral communication.
Do we have any calls?
Chair Avedisian, no, we do not.
We don't have no calls.
No.
Okay, then this motion is, this item is closed, oral communication. We move on to our item 4A, action items.
That would be
Ms.
item
Garvey.
5, action item. At A is selection of CDBG Advisory Committee officers. At 1 is selection of chair for the term October 2020 to October 2021. And at 2 is selection of vice chair for the term October 2020 to October 2021.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any nominations?
Chair Avedisian, if I may, I would like to request that you turn the meeting over to me so that I can take nominations.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, I turn the meeting over to Mrs. Iris?
Moreno Hernandez. Yes, thank you. The business before the CDBG Advisory Committee is a selection of a new chair. I will now entertain nominations for that office.
Just moving forward, I'm so sorry, just confirming, I don't see everyone. Is that how it's supposed to be? Is it just me, or I only see Mrs. Gabriela and Mr. Armenia? I don't see the chair and Gazarian. Is that me, or?
Don't see anyone in the chambers unless you're streaming it separately.
Oh, I can't see anyone in chambers unless I stream? Okay. Oh, well, okay, that's fine. So it's not just me.
No.
Okay, very good. All right, let's move on. So I nominate Mr. Armenia.
I second.
We don't necessarily need a second, but are there any other nominations?
Do you have any other nominations?
Okay, hearing no further nominations, I'll proceed with the roll call. Committee Member Armenian,
Yes.
Avedisian,
Yes.
Caribbean,
Yes.
Gazarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian.
Aye.
I now declare Committee Member Armenian the duly elected chair of the CDBG Advisory Committee. Mr. Chair, the task before you now is to open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
Thank you very much, committee members, for your support. I truly appreciate it. We will move on to the next item, which is 5A number 2, which is selection of vice chair for the term of October 2020 to October 2021. We open the floor for nominations, please. I'd like to make a nomination if I'm allowed to as chair.
That should be fine.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Mr. Garibian for vice chair.
A second.
There are seconds? Thank you. Can we have are there other nominations? Okay, if not, then can we have a vote, please?
Certainly. Committee Member Armenian?
Yes.
I apologize, Chair Armenian now. Committee Member Avedissian?
Yes.
Committee Member Garibian?
Yes.
Committee Member Gazarian?
Yes.
And Committee Member Quinones Gabrielian?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Garibian.
Thank you.
Working with you in the coming year. Can we go on to next item, which is 5B?
Certainly. 5B, preliminary proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category. One is a motion to approve the preliminary proposed fiscal year 2020-2021 CDBG funding allocation plan by funding category.
Good afternoon, Chair Armenian, members of the Advisory Committee. We have a PowerPoint presentation to go over the upcoming preliminary proposed 2021-22 CDBG funding allocation plan. Our recommendation is to approve the plan. Please let us know if you can see that for those of you who are at a desktop.
It's still coming through.
And nothing yet.
The blank page right now. You see your pointer. It went back to the screen with all the different participant pictures.
All right, there it is. I see it.
Thank you. We can see it now. Now we see your desktop. Now we see each other. I'm just giving you a play-by-play like the NBA. There it is.
All right. Can everyone see it?
I can see it.
Okay.
Now we see it in this mode.
Our recommendation is that the committee approve the preliminary proposed funding allocation plan by funding category. We wanted to give you a bit of information before we started with news out of Washington. Congress had passed the continuing resolution and the president had signed the stopgap measure, and we have funding through December 11th to avoid another government shutdown this year. Our appropriations levels are remaining the same as we have in this current year until a final budget has been passed. So for CDBG funding estimate purposes, we're going to remain on last year's funding. Now, what does the continuing resolution mean? Basically, staff may not be able to present a final budget to the CDBG Advisory Committee by the February 2021 meeting, and we might need to hold an additional meeting to make final funding recommendations like we've done in years past. So with that being said, the funding allocation estimate that we are projecting is $2 million for this year. And that $2 million, we set aside 20% for program administration, which is $400,000. There's a 15% cap on public social services, which is $300,000. And then the bulk of it, 65% at $1.3 million, is allocated towards capital improvement projects. This year, without the need to set aside funding for the Section 108 loan repayment, which has been paid off this current year, we have up to $800,000 in community CIP funding to allocate towards community agencies. That's 61.5% of the funding. We are also setting aside $500,000 for city pre-designated project at 38.5%. This is going to be the 2021-2022 Pacific Park Splash Pad project. Now, we had discussed this in years past, but I will say we have unappropriated fund balance of $32,000, roughly $32,000. This is from returned funding, closed projects that had some money left over, and this is funding that we've had over the years. We try not to touch this funding. We leave it for a rainy day as a safety net. So we're not including that in the funding allocation plan. So we wanted to go over the city pre-designated project with the committee. So for fiscal year 2021-2022, Pacific Park Splash Pad project is the project we feel is most needed for our CDBG dollars. We have an aerial view of the splash pad area with the red circle, if you could see. We're requesting that basically we're going to ask that part of that scope of work change, and I'll get into that as I get further into the slides, but we're trying to give you an aerial view of the area, which is, if you look at the area, it's the restroom area that needs to be updated. So our current project scope and status, we want to redesign the outdoor restrooms at the Pacific Park because it's part of a greater scope of a currently funded 17-18 splash pad project that we have. So the original splash pad project includes the replacement of the water play feature and increasing the play space by 10% and changing it to concrete, and then the water would be recycled because this is a LA County requirement. Right now, currently the splash pad is in plan check process with the LA County Health Department, and staff is working on these revisions and trying to answer some of the LA County comments. And part of that requirement is the addition of an outside shower that needs to be placed to comply with the county health code requirements for an aquatics facility. Another required change is the county is requesting an entrance exit of the restroom by way of a wall for privacy measures so people can't see. Staff is actually working to address these the county's plan check comments and recommends making further revisions to the restroom design to address safety and security concerns that staff will review with you. So the safety concerns that we have with the restroom structure is approximately 1,300 square feet. It includes 4 restrooms, a maintenance room, and a storage room. The redesign is not going to change the overall square footage. It'll remain at 1,300. There's currently 4 individual single-use restrooms that lock. The safety security concerns are with the design of the existing restrooms. When the community center is closed, 4 of those restrooms are used by park patrons using various amenities at the park, such as the ball fields and outdoor events and programs that we have. Now, staff had to respond to a lot of complaint calls by patrons when, in the evening, persons are in the restroom for extended periods of time because they're able to lock it from inside. Restrooms are being used by non-park patrons to shower, illegal substances are being used, and they're spending the night. Usually transients are locking themselves into these restrooms at night. So it's very difficult to secure the facility at night by locking the restrooms as people are inside after the park is closed. So we're proposing a redesign of the restroom so the individual single-use restroom is no longer, the individual single-use restroom can no longer be locked from the inside. So each gender-specific restroom would have an entrance and an exit facing each side of the building. So the inside would have wall partitions for privacy that'll separate the toilet from the rest of the interior space and the sink. The redesign will also allow for multiple users. So multiple people can use the partition separated toilets and hand washing sinks. So again, the doors of the restroom will not be lockable from the inside. Only city staff will have access to lock those restrooms. Redesign will prevent users from entering the restroom and locking the doors for their own unique shelter place. Now, city staff has asked design consultants to provide 3 pre-concept design plans to change the flooring plan, update the lock features, and add partition walls, and we will share that with the committee once those designs are available. So our staff is recommending that the committee please approve the 2021-2022 funding allocation plan by funding category to include the $500,000 in pre-designated funding for the city CIP project for the 2021-2022 splash pad project. This completes my presentation. If you have any questions, we would be more than happy to answer them.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please go ahead, Mr. Avedisian.
Mentioned that there's 2 unidentified uncommitted funds that we have. I think it's totaling about 52,000. 18,000 some for I believe that's 2021, 2022, 32,000. So these funds, what's the time limit, or is there a time limit that we can keep them untouched or unused, or we can use it this coming year if need to be?
Chair Armenian Committee Member Avedisian, those funds are uncommitted at this time. They can stay in the city's line of credit for as long as we want them to be, until we need to encumber them and put them into a funding allocation plan like we have this year. Thank goodness that we've been receiving more funding. Now again, those dollars can only be used for capital improvement projects. So if we come back in February and the numbers are skewed or changed, and if we need them, we are able to use those funds. We just try not to use them until we definitely need them for a rainy day.
I see. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Could I ask a question about the splash pad? What is the anticipate? I know we hope we're not going to be in this COVID situation forever, but we don't know what the outlook is on that. Is the county imposing anything that would require us to do anything differently with that in mind, or are they pretending like by the time this thing's done, that will be gone as an issue?
Chair Armenian, members of the committee, we're following all county guidelines. They're requiring us to install a shower with both cold and hot water. The splash pad will have recirculated water, chlorinated water with a 1,000-gallon holding tank with chlorine and chemicals similar to a swimming pool. So we're following what county is asking us to do and putting it part of the permit process.
So those measures are part of that,
yes,
kind of with COVID in mind? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Other committee members, Mr. Garibian.
Obviously, you got into the design details of it, which I'm in no position to get into it, the walls, the locks and all that. I assume those are safeties and regulations for everyone else to get into it as a CDBG. I'm not entitled to. But is it expanding the existing one, or pretty much remodeling and upgrading the existing one? You think is there an expansion to it, or is the same one just upgrading it? The splash pad.
Committee Member Garibian, Chair Armenian, members of the committee, it's actually the same size. The restroom size is not going to be changing. We're just basically renovating the existing restroom to not allow for individual restrooms which lock from the inside. As part of the current scope, we did have some renovation, but because the county has come back and asked for outdoor showers and some revisions to the existing restroom as it relates to partitions and not having individually locked restrooms, we figured we could expand that scope to address some of the concerns we had been having at that park. So it's the same exact square footage, just renovation of the existing building to not allow individuals to lock the restrooms from the inside.
And that's the one that we have a bill estimated for $500,000.
Staff at this time is estimating that it will cost about $500,000. We are waiting for some numbers from the consultant on the redesign, but we are estimating right now that that would be the additional cost to the existing project budget. So we'll probably, by the next meeting, we'll hopefully have numbers. So if it's less than that, we can let the committee know and we could reappropriate some of that. But right now, staff's best estimate is that it will be at 500 to incorporate the changes that we are recommending as part of the revised scope.
And lastly, what was the, again, estimated time of permit start to finish? Estimated.
Chair, Armenian members of the committee, estimated time is between hopefully the next 12 to 18 months.
To finish.
To start. To start the project, yeah. We hope that the project will be completed by summer of 2022.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? And you'll have to speak up if you're in chambers because I can't see anyone.
No, we're good.
Okay. Ms. Quinones-Gabrielian, anything from you?
No, I'm, as you know, learning and I have seen everything at this point in time. I don't have enough of a historical grounding, but it looks fine. We are going to have an opportunity to learn a little bit more right before the final approval in February. Is that correct, or is this? Can you tell me a little more about that process?
Chair Armenian, members of the committee member Quinones-Gabrielian. Today, when you approve the funding allocation plan, that $500,000 will be set aside for the city pre-designated project of the splash pad. However, as Deputy Director Alexanian had mentioned, if the numbers come in less with the conceptual designs, we will let the committee know and let you all know the amount that will be required to be set aside, and we can release some of the funds for capital improvement projects to community agencies. And that would be done in February.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Goribian.
Just to clarify, if when it comes to when the agencies apply for capital improvements, so when the time comes for deliberations and allocating funds, if necessary, we can within that time period revise this figure at the time of the meetings of the agencies, times of allocating. We can tap into this if necessary, whatever 10, 50, 100,000 if necessary, or we have to wait. When would that time? When we'll be able to tap into this? What I'm saying is, would it be available at the time of the meetings when it's time to allocate for CIP?
You would be able to tap into the funding if it is available by that time. Now, again, February we'll have our meeting, but with this continuing resolution, it looks as if the climate looks as if you'll have another meeting after that to follow up. So it buys us an additional month as well if the concept designs don't come in time. So you'll have at least until March to make those decisions and possibly allocate funds to community agencies if that need does come up.
Just strictly, I'm thinking with the COVID, the new norms kicking in, I'm going to assume a lot of agencies will have new CIPs coming up for constructions to be able to adopt within this. So I won't be surprised if we have a huge, large amount of CIPs coming in this year. That's why I want to make sure that's more priority if we need to push this further out or half or anything like that, we'll have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. We'll definitely consider that, committee member, Vice Chair Garibian.
Thank you.
Ms. Quiñones Gabrielian.
Yes, thank you. I want to go back because I know that you said it was Pelanconi Park and the essence is the remodeling of the restrooms, correct? And so when you said there are 4 of them, I guess they are gender neutral, and there are 4 period. And so what I see is 494,900. So pretty much 500,000. Are we saying that it takes
Committee
$500,000?
member Gabrielian,
Yes.
Quiñones Gabrielian, I believe you're talking about the Pelanconi Park project. This is the Pacific Park
okay.
Splash Pad project.
Okay, and how much, again, I'm looking for it here on my list. I want to make sure that I have the correct amount. What is the amount to remodel 4 restrooms?
We are suggesting $500,000, $500,000 as a pre-designated sum for 21-22.
To remodel 4 restrooms? $500,000?
That is correct.
It just seems outrageous to me. I'm sorry. I don't know did we get like different bids and everybody's in accordance that it's going to take $500,000 to do 4 restrooms?
Chair Armenian, members of the committee, committee member Quiñones Gabrielian, this includes A to Z, so the soft costs also, the design, the construction, the project management, all the way through the end of the project. So the construction itself is probably going to cost less than $500,000, but to design the building, to manage the project, staffing from A to Z, we're estimating $500,000.
And we have 3 bids already, or we're not there yet?
We're not there yet.
We were in plan check.
We were in plan check. We're going back and forth with LA County and Glendale's plan check, Glendale's permitting services.
And we had bids, 3 bids that came in about the same amount. It's just that it seems.
No, we don't. I'm
looking
sorry.
at it.
Yeah, we don't have any bids yet. We're estimating. This is just an estimate.
Okay.
This is just an estimate. We don't have any bids yet. But this also does include soft costs. And soft costs is the planning, the construction, the design, and project management component of the project.
No, I understand totally. I'm just a little bit surprised by the, 1,370 square feet and what the square foot, the cost per square foot is for a bathroom renovation. And I just wanted to question that. Thank you.
I also had a kind of a follow-up to that. I appreciate that these are estimates, but I do worry that when you put an estimate out like that, which is now public domain, that anyone bidding on it is going to come in and say, oh, well, they already have that amount in mind, so let me just kind of come in around that, a little bit underneath it, and come through, as opposed to what might have been a true cost without estimating on the front end. It's just an observation in terms of how I would have gone about setting up a bid.
Chair Armenian, members of the committee, generally, we would wait for the estimates to come in before we propose a project, but given that it's time for us to approve the proposed preliminary funding allocation plan, I guess we could look at it as $500,000 being set aside for a city CIP project, not specifically $500,000 for this project. Staff is identifying that this is the project that we would recommend funding. And so if, the bids are coming in lower, it won't necessarily be where $500,000 is dedicated to renovating the restrooms. So we were just trying to set aside an amount because we use this preliminary funding plan to then issue the RFP. So we're basically identifying that 1.3 million will be set aside for capital improvement projects. 300,000 will be set aside for the public social service programs, and 400,000 for administration. And then as part of that, we're saying that 500,000 will be set aside for a city CIP project. So the difference will go to the 800,000 will then be RFP'd out to community nonprofit organizations for their CIP projects. We hope that the amount will come in lower, and the difference could be then spent to allocate to community CIP projects. But should the bids come in higher, we just wanted to make sure that we had enough funds set aside to be able to do this. Unfortunately, I think originally we weren't necessarily planning on touching the restrooms because of the funding concerns, but because the LA County has come back and asked us to make some revisions as part of the code requirements as it relates to the showers and the walls for the restrooms, so that they aren't individual use and can't, we figure that we could also include to not necessarily individual use, but to put up a wall partition to block off, so if children are changing, let's say in the restroom, people can't see inside. So these are the types of changes the county had asked us to make. So we figured we would incorporate the rest of the redesign for that restroom to address some of the safety concerns that we've been having with the transients sleeping inside the restrooms, locking it where the public is no longer able to use it. We're hopeful that the project will not be 500,000, but at this point, based on past experience on similar renovations, our best estimate from CIP, our capital improvement section, is that it will come in around that amount. So at this time, I understand the concerns Chair Armenian has raised with possibly the companies coming in around that price, knowing that there is that amount available, but that's not necessarily to say that we have already requested those estimates, so we're hoping that it will come in lower, and it's not to say that that is the amount that would be designated for that project.
And what happens if the bids that come in are actually higher than the amount? Like, what are our options? Because I feel like, to be honest with you, that we have put ourselves between a rock and a hard place. The county is requiring this. We're signaling what the amount is, and if someone comes in higher or even at, we're going to be in a position of having some expensive bathrooms, as Ms. Quinones Gabrielian has noted.
I think if the price estimate comes in higher, and I could defer to Mr. Bulanikian, but we would either just do the minimum, which is the county requirements, and not do the rest of the renovations, which is to address larger concerns that we've seen over the years, and wait for that at a different time. Or we would need to identify additional funding from other funding sources like grants or the general fund from the city's general fund. So those would be other options to consider. So either halt the project and proceed with meeting the minimum requirements from the county and not necessarily expand the scope to address some of these other concerns right now, or look for other funding sources to be able to complete the project with the redesign.
Okay, other comments or questions? on the committee? Mr. Dorian.
Just again back to, I understand, I mean, even Mr. Armenia brought it up. I'm okay with that because we struggle so much. Luckily, we paid off a loan that we've been paying off for, I don't know, 10 years now. And I was so excited. I couldn't wait for this to be over so we'll have more money to pay towards all the agency CIPs as it comes in. That for the years that I know of, we've been cutting everyone really low, even 50% most times. And now that we paid off loans, we have no more money to allocate, especially I know with the COVID, it's a lot more options are, requests will be out there. I would hate to allocate such a huge, large amount, even though it could change, but to start with, allocate such a large amount and keep our the CIP amount still at the minimum that it has been, even though we paid off a loan. I somehow am not comfortable with that. So if you just mentioned, if county has certain minimums, if we can allocate the minimum amount of county requirement, because that's something obviously we have to do what the county requirements are. If we can allocate that portion, and hopefully, maybe I'm hoping COVID will go away, CIPs will be less required, and we'll have more money, and we can allocate more thereafter versus from beginning allocate a larger amount and then go back and tap into it versus allocate a minimum requirement and then add to it as we have more funds available. That's just, you guys realize that shortage, that extra money that came back from, the agency. So that was a huge help for all other agencies. Even there was a CIP funds that went to social programs. So every penny, as you guys know, counts. So I would hate to allocate. That's just my say so in this segment to be able to allocate minimum requirements and then tap to it as necessary.
Ms. Quinones Gabrielian.
I would really agree with your suggestion. I think if we allocate, whatever the minimum requirements are, or even if we just look at what is the market price of, per square foot from A to Z, and allocate something like $300,000 for this project, so that whoever looks at our minutes or whatever it is that we approved for this project doesn't take advantage of the pre-approved amount, and then we can keep the rest in reserve for this project.
Mr. Armenian, if I may.
Please,
Chair
Mr.
Armenian. I truly understand everyone's concerns, and I do too. I have the same concerns that why would so-called restroom will cost so much money. But then again, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is city directives that we have to take under consideration, that city projects that we have to identify, staff has to identify, and it comes out of the CIP funds. Also, this dollars that we approve, it's not necessarily, no matter how, the staff are more aggressive in looking into the dollars and not wasting them in any way possible. And I know, I'm confident with our staff that they will not waste money in any way. And of course, the city council has to final approval. If they see any waste, they're not gonna let it go. They will definitely make their directions and corrections where it needs to be. So this is just an estimate, and the contractors know, and as the staff explained, I believe, that the cost is not gonna be $500,000 for that construction. Within the construction, there's so many other costs that it's included in the process before even getting to the construction. So all those considered, and the contractors know that they cannot, it's not gonna come in and ask for 500,000 just for the construction. Because the staff has a lot other things to do. As we see, we put 15-20% aside for the management costs, and this is somewhat the same. So I wouldn't think that we should drag on this or bid on it too much until we actually get final estimates or final approvals, and where the city council is gonna actually approve also. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I wanted to add, first of all, this is not in any way a reflection on the staff, and I know that the staff works hard to make sure that, we do get every dollar counts, and we stretch it as much as possible. And this is a collaborative effort. To me, it's just about a process issue, because you are tipping your hand to have this discussion in this manner. So anyway, we're beyond that, because we've had the discussion at this point. But I think that if there was a suggestion on changing the allocation, I mean, we can have a discussion around that. I think that would be the action item coming out of this. Ms. Quinones Gabrielian has mentioned 300,000. Mr. Goribian has mentioned that he's not comfortable with the way the allocation has happened. So we look for guidance from staff in terms of how we come to an agreement of some sort before we vote on anything.
Chair Armenian, I'm sorry, were you looking for comments from the committee members or addressing it to staff?
Staff, sorry. I was looking for staff guidance on where we go from here, because you're looking for a motion for us to approve. There's at least a couple of committee members who have expressed concerns about the way the allocation has been expressed in the proposed motion. So I wanted to see if there's a different path forward potentially.
So there is, it is up to the Chair Armenian, it is up to the committee to approve a preliminary proposed plan as you feel comfortable. And so you could either, one of you could make a motion and change that amount and address it at whatever amount the committee as a whole feels comfortable setting aside for a city pre-designated project. If you feel more comfortable identifying the $500,000 for a city project, but not necessarily tying it to this project, and make that decision later, whether you want to allocate, let's say, $300,000 to the splash pad project and another $200,000 to another city project. We can consider that as well. So if you're comfortable with $500,000 being set aside for a city CIP project, we can come back to you later with a presentation for the splash pad project and other South Glendale projects that might need funding, and you can make that decision later how much you want to fund for each project. Or at this time, you could just lower that amount to whatever the committee feels comfortable allocating specific to the splash pad project. We do need to identify an amount only because when we release the RFP, the request for proposal, we do need to identify how much money is available to the community organizations. So we do need to identify of the 1.3 million, how much is set aside for a city project and how much is going to be RFP to community organizations. This plan will be presented to council as well. So we could take your recommendation, and when we present it to council, we'll let them know that this is what the committee recommended and this is what staff's recommendation was, and then they could make that final decision. So I leave it up to the committee as a whole for what the majority feels comfortable with. So you could either approve a general $500,000 set aside for a pre-designated city CIP project, and then reevaluate it when those bids come in, or you could lower that amount to whatever the majority of the committee feels comfortable with.
Okay. Mr. Goribian.
I agree with the staff, obviously, but before we go further, I just want to mention that Chair member of it, this had mentioned, this has nothing to do with staff. My concern, obviously, staff they do their perfect job, so no questions asked there, especially with the experience they're backing up onto this. Just overall, I was looking forward for more funding this year, not just the general. But I agree with if we allocate it towards the city project in general, so at least in that case, could be revised in different ways or spread out to different projects as needed. Maybe something else will come up, and or maybe even the staff when it comes to bidding and trying to do stuff, they realize maybe they have to do certain minimums versus the whole thing. So I'm okay allocating it as a general, and when it comes to bidding, the contractors and everybody else won't see a specific amount allocated to this also. If I'm not mistaken, that will be the case because it will be the general city project. So I'll be okay to allocate it. And obviously, at the beginning, I asked if we can tap into it if necessary by February, if we have to add some of it to it. So I think I'll be okay with adding it to the general city project versus a specific one for this park.
Okay, so you're not, just to be clear, you're not proposing to lower the amount, you're just proposing to keep it general so that we have the flexibility to allocate based on what we prioritize later.
Right, because lowering it I hear from staff, it'd be irrelevant because we can change when it comes to this is just the RFP purposes. We have to have a number there, and B, by the time they collect the bids, that could change also. And having a general one, it doesn't really tell us that we allocated full amount for that particular park, and I don't think we have a new park anywhere in the projects yet. So I think leaving the entire thing for now in the general city funds would be fine.
Others, before we entertain a motion?
Chair,
I'm sorry, I have another question for the staff or Mr. Chair. I think did you say that when an RFP goes out, that before they entertain bidding, they ask what amount of funding is available? Is that what you said to staff?
That's for the organizations. The organizations that are bidding, we tell them the total amount of available funds for all projects so that they know like what the size of the pie is basically.
And not the construction, the engineering firms,
No.
etc. Okay,
Right.
okay. Thank you.
I can't see Mr. Avedisian or Mr. Nazarian. If you have any questions, I'm just reaching out.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question, but I think I want to call for the question. Let's make I want to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to make a motion to accept the preliminary proposed for years 2021, 2022 funding allocation plan as presented by the staff without any changes.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I would like to make a new motion to
Hold on, let me just see if there's a second or not, Mr. Green. If there's no second, then I will entertain another motion.
my motion would be to keep the funds available, but allocating it as a general city project.
So you're making a motion to approve it, but with an amendment of the amount we've been discussing being kept as a general allocation.
That is correct.
Do we have a second on that?
I will second that.
Okay.
I go ahead and if you have a first and a second, can we have some discussion?
Yeah. We'll open up the motion for discussion, so specific to the motion.
Thank you. On Exhibit 1, will that change? Well, how will that be reflected? Or will it still say Pacific Park Splash Pad Project, but, you know, we will all know and have taken, maybe shared this discussion with City Council, because I think it's a very beneficial discussion for them to understand. But if we don't change that there, nothing really changes on the exhibit. So I don't know how we reflect that. I leave it up to you and staff, but it would be very good to share this discussion with City Council. Thank you.
Chair Armenian, Committee Member Gabrielian, we are going to present in November the funding allocation plan that you approved today. And we will make the revisions as you see fit. So whatever that motion may be, everything will be revised to what the committee decides today. And that it will be also included into the report to City Council and the Housing Authority in November.
Meaning it will be presented as, which the motion says that the allocation that's being proposed.
Exactly, as an
general.
undesignated city project that's set aside of $500,000.
Yeah,
Not tied to splash pad per se.
right. Other discussion around the motion? Go ahead, Mr. Luribian.
Obviously, I heard the staff commenting. Is there anything by this motion, is it changing anything as far as the project is concerned for the park, beside the name allocation? Does it change anything in your plans? My question.
Chair Armenian, Committee Member Haribian, at this point, basically the committee, should this motion pass, is not allocating funds to any one project. So as of today, we have no direction as to how that $500,000 could be used. So unless council directs us otherwise, like if we get to the council meeting and they say we don't feel comfortable setting aside $500,000 without a project, let's allocate it to a project, and gives us direction otherwise, we would have to come back to this committee at the next meeting and bring to you the estimates for the splash pad project and any other project that we might want to propose to you for consideration to be used with that $500,000, to be allocated for that $500,000. So as of today, we have no direction on how to use the 500. We just know that there's $500,000 that's set aside for a city CIP project. So we would have to come back to the committee to get further direction, unless once we get to council and we present to them a plan without a project, they don't feel comfortable approving that. We've never done this before, so we really don't know what's going to happen once we get to city council, because there's always been a project type to the CIP city pre-designated project, at least during my and Maggie's time on with the committee. So if there is past practice with the existing committee members that might have been here in a previous year where we've done this, we're happy to take that feedback. But from what we know at this point, we would present to council the proposed preliminary plan with $500,000 allocated towards a city pre-designated project, but without designating the project, and see what council says.
Chair Armenian.
I want to say something too here. Just based on what I'm hearing, I'm concerned because if I were sitting on council, I'd be asking, well, like, why 500? Why not 400? Why not 600? The question is going to be asked, and the answer is going to be, well, we came up with the, like, they're going to say, how did you come up with the 500? They're going to say, well, the 500 is actually because of this, this, and this, which is what gets us back to where we were. Which is the signaling of how much money potentially the city is willing to spend on a specific project. That's my concern, is that while I think we're trying to solve to a problem here of not maybe accepting the fact that it's going to cost that much, councils want more clarity before they make a decision. on these sorts of allocations. And so I think that causes a problem, because the alternative approach is to say, let's just lower the amount. And let's just say it's going to be 300, kind of stress test it that way. And then if the project, let's say, legitimately does cost more, then we'd have to kind of allocate some additional money, I suppose, or the council would have to. Ms. Quinones Gabrielian, you first, and then Mr. Avedisian.
Thank
Hey, you
you.
don't see me, so you don't know what I'm asking. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wondered if I agree with you as well. If I were a city council member and I was told, well, you just put 500,000, but this is a pre-designated project that came from city council, so they already know that it's for the Pacific Park, and I think that what we're trying to do is just make sure that it's that the cost, that the amount allocated is within a range that is, I guess, that reflects reality, I think, of the costs out there. And I don't want to go against staff because I don't know, I'm not in construction business, but it's almost, well, it's way out of bounds. I wondered if the maker of the original motion, instead of saying undesignated city project, put in for pre-designated city projects, which includes the Pan Pacific Splash Pad project. At least we've mentioned it in there, but we haven't mentioned how much specifically it is for the renovation of that particular area in the park. Would that work?
Committee
Chair.
member,
If I may, sorry, were you going to say something, staff?
yes. Chair Armenian Committee Member Quinones Gabrielian, I just wanted to clarify the project as identified it was not directed by City Council. City Council has given staff direction to pre-designate projects before the RFPs are released. So every year we come to the committee and we identify some city projects as options to fund with the pre-designated funds. So this year we're identifying the Pacific Park Splash Pad project. So the City Council has not seen this plan yet. It will go to them after this committee makes a recommendation. So just wanted to clarify that project has not been identified this year as the pre-designated project. We just have direction from council to set aside some funds as part of the plan to be pre-designated for a CIP project that is a city project.
Mr. Avedisian.
I think what committee member Gabriela what she was just suggested and what the staff has said, I think we're going back actually to the original presentation of the staff of the dollar amounts pre-designated, the $500,000 or whatever that dollar amount is, to certain projects. City Council, I don't think will accept anything hanging without any project in front of it, any dollars hanging without having any project in front of it. So what the staff had suggested is pre-designated projects, and Pacific Park Splash Pad project, or whichever it is, that is the project that they're suggesting. So if we're not changing the dollar amount, then what we're talking right now is exactly going back to the same project, same suggestion from the staff, or proposed from the staff. So I don't understand. I think I'm a little bit confused that why are we going back and forth and we're going to come back to the same proposal, unless we're changing actual dollar amount. If you're not changing the dollar amount, then everything else is exactly what they're proposed.
Mr. Goribian, you had your hand up.
Yeah, earlier. So again, with we don't want to confuse. Obviously, the streamlining of the system has been, and not having no project tied to it when it goes to council in November, and we'll find out if we need these funds in February. But obviously, if we have to stick to I don't know if we can use the slash area general funds, but that defeats the purpose. If we're gonna add or tag or dash the name of the park to the funds, so it defeats the purpose, and didn't want to allocate. So if that's the case, I would like to change my motion if possible to change it to allocate the funds to the park, but reduce it by $100,000 to $400,000.
And I reaffirm my second then.
Okay, so the motion is to reduce it by 100,000. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Could you repeat the motion, please?
To leave it with the staff's recommendation to say allocated for the park project, but reduce it to 400,000.
Reduce it to 400,000, and the 100,000 goes back to the
general.
regular
Yes,
project.
yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make
We have
sure.
a second on that. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, if not, then I'll ask for a vote.
Committee members Avedisian,
Yes.
Azarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garibian,
Yes.
Chair Armenian.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, we'll next move on to 5C.
Yes, 5C is fiscal year 2021-2022 CDBG program priorities. One is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 CDBG program priorities.
Chair Armenian, members of the advisory committee, part of the development of the fiscal year 2021-2022 annual action plan is the need to determine program priorities for the upcoming year. We're going to have a PowerPoint set up for you. Please let us know when you're able to view it.
We see it. It is not in display mode yet.
I could see it, but it went away.
Interesting.
We're setting it up right now. Are the committee members at home able to see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is the 2021-2022 CDBG program priorities. Our recommendation is to approve the program priorities for the coming year. So how do we develop these program priorities? Traditionally, we always host an in-person community meeting, usually at Pacific Park Community Center, where residents would be invited to provide direct input on what they would like to see in their community with these federal funding allocations that are going to be allocated soon. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have provided alternate ways to gather community input this particular year. What we did was we conducted a community meeting by way of 3 separate platforms to assess community need. Email comments, telephone, and WebEx virtual meeting. So the 3 platforms for community input, we received 4 email comments through the reminder. And we had also set up a telephone call with bilingual support in Armenian and in Spanish, but we received no telephone comments using this particular platform. Our most successful platform was the virtual community meeting that was held on October 1st at 7 p.m. via WebEx. We had 28 residents participating in this meeting, and a lot of good commentary was collected. We had one individual who needed a little bit more information because he couldn't access the audio during the virtual meeting. So our director and I met with this individual and we received his comments in person, of course, using social distancing. So how we presented this notice, a flyer notice of community input by way of kind of different ways. We had an LA Times Saturday edition newspaper ad inviting residents to attend. That's the San Fernando edition. Our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts for the city and our Community Services and Parks Department. Our department website had it posted in our calendar, our City Connections newsletter, our Community Services and Parks newsletter, our nonprofit email distribution list, and our CSP distribution list, along with our GTV6 family. So a lot of ways to hear about our meeting. Not only did we do the platform, the 3 platforms, and receive input from residents, we also had to do a data analysis. So staff had conducted analysis between the American Community Survey that's done through the U.S. Census for years 2014 to 2018. This is the most up-to-date estimate census, to list key demographic indicators for Glendale. And this year, our Glendale poverty rate is 14.9%, as opposed to LA County. Compared to LA County's is 14.2%, who are at poverty line. We also looked at children ages 18 and under. 17.6% of Glendale's population are under 18, and 21.4% of LA County residents are under 18. So that's quite a significant difference. There are also over 46,000 seniors that live in Glendale who are 60 years and older. Now, the U.S. Census has 17.1% living in Glendale who are over age 65. We also looked at median rent for Glendale, which is $1,529 compared to LA County, which is $1,390 for LA renters. A huge comparison, 106,826 Glendale residents are foreign born, representing 53.6% of the total population. Compared to LA County, theirs is 34.2%. So we have a large foreign-born population here in Glendale. We added one additional key demographic indicator this year, and this is really due to COVID and our schools. So we added this, 86.2% of Glendale households own a computer, while 82.4% of Glendale households have broadband internet subscriptions. We wanted to present that as well so the committee would get a chance to see if our students and if our youth have access to computers and internet because of being at home during this time. So to give you the program priority needs, it's really in line with last year's. Community facilities are important to our residents, public services, public infrastructure, special needs services, housing, of course, special needs housing, business and jobs. Next slide. So in our determination we made, priorities are definitely in line with the 5-year plan that was approved last year, which was very comprehensive. We did notice, of course, housing continues to be a concern as our moratorium on evictions continue this throughout October. Residents are concerned about that. They also expressed a need for additional programs for youth, childcare, business assistance, employment, food pantry, and senior services, again, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. This concludes the presentation on program priorities. We'd be more than happy to answer questions.
I'm going to start off with a question just to get us going, and then we'll go to other members. You did mention on the front end of the presentation that there was feedback in a variety of formats and forms. Can you give us a sense of are we missing the mark in any way based on any of the feedback?
Are we missing the mark on the feedback itself?
Are there areas that we had not considered that were raised in any of the feedback?
We compiled all the feedback in the comments. I think it's Exhibit 3 of the comments. What we do is we review everything and we try to tie it to the program priorities that we have in place. And most of them are in line with what the residents want. We did see, obviously, the skewed COVID-19 concerns. So we wanted to include that as one of the topic points that we didn't have last year or in years past, because we felt that that was very important. We did notice that the platforms that we're using, we are getting more residents who want to provide input. It is much easier to be online, of course, meet virtually, or to email staff and give them opinions rather than, make time out to park a car, walk up, have childcare, whatever the residents' needs might be middle of the week. We did see a jump in respondents, so that's almost a double. We usually get about 14 to 19 persons attending our in-person meeting, and as you could see, we had 28 in attendance virtually. So that is kind of nice, and it might be maybe the wave of the future, have one more platform to include within in-person meetings as well. We'd like to see more bilingual. We usually do breakout sessions in Armenian and in Spanish with bilingual breakout sessions. So we couldn't do that this year. So that telephone option was given this year, but no one utilized it. So that was something that we noticed. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, no, it does. And you answered my second question too. So you must be reading my mind. So thank you. Other questions? Ms. Quinones Gabrieli, I think you have your hand up.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to, when I reviewed everything across the board, this exhibit 1, I guess, 2021-2022 Annual Action Plan Priority Needs, and the priority needs listed in the RFPs, both in the social services and the capital improvement program, those are the same, but that it's not the same as this. And I just wondered, this exhibit that we're talking about now, especially since some of the input from the community said to improve or include childcare services and food pantry. I just wondered if we could add so that it's standard on the exhibit and also added on the RFP under the program priorities, childcare services under community facilities. You have indoor community centers / youth centers / childcare centers is the way it's stated on the RFP. So if we could be consistent there, that it's a suggestion, and then also add under public services, childcare services, because it's not there, and childcare services doesn't appear in the RFPs either. And I think childcare services, we've been seeing, especially how critical it is now that everybody has their kids at home. How are they going to go back to work if we don't have the required childcare services? And I can imagine that the low-income families are having an even bigger problem. So I wanted to make sure that childcare services was reflected in all of our priority.
Committee member Gabrielian.
Yes.
Under public services, we have youth services. We try to keep it as broad as possible to invite as many RFPs as possible. So if you look under public services, youth services is part of childcare, and about 60% of our proposals that come in are usually childcare related or after-school programs. So if you look there, I don't know if you see it yet, but under.
I don't see it on the screen, but I do see it I see it under indoor community centers / youth centers and / childcare centers in the RFPs. In the exhibit, I see youth services. If that's.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, for your benefit, Ms. Quinones Gabrielian, we did actually, we had some return funds in the last meeting that we were allocating for COVID purposes specifically. And several of the proposals were around that need that you just put your finger on in terms of learning pods, for school, for parents who have to work and whose kids have to do distance learning, for example, getting them together in a socially distant environment in pods with some supervision so that they could do their distance learning while the parents both go to work, or in the case of single parents, that parent goes to work. So we're already looking at those things, but I think what you're pointing out is whether or not we should be more specific.
And if you want to I can understand. It sounds like 60% of your programs are already coming in for childcare, and we're doing a lot about childcare. Maybe we could just be consistent and add this, same wording as in the RFP, where we do list childcare services, childcare centers. Add it to this exhibit. It's not in the exhibit.
We can update the exhibit. The exhibit is really for for the committee's benefit, but the RFP goes out to the community itself. So we try to make that one a little bit more comprehensive so they know what is available for funding, what is considered an eligible activity for funding.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing here is that, to the extent that we can show from a priority perspective that while we fund many different kinds of child care, the after school program, et cetera, that there's a, priority on that issue, which has to do with that, particularly what the situation I described, which I believe is what you're referring to, Ms. Quinones Gabrielian.
To make sure that it's, consistent in both the exhibit and the RFPs. Yes, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Avedisian or Mr. Lazarian?
No questions.
No question.
Okay.
I have one more, and I'm sorry for asking so many questions, but it is my first meeting, so it'll be less as we go on. Where are food pantries? Where are they shown? Under what programs?
Social service.
Again, because food pantries, we added an additional topic to the pre-existing program priorities that were established in the 5-year plan. The COVID-19 did a number on us, so we included that in the comments. So when the committee members review the proposals, we want you to consider those topics that were important, were brought up by residents to the committee. And usually it is under social services. So again, senior centers, senior services. It could fall under many of the topics or priorities, I should say, in the RFP.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Avedisian.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I think we had enough.
We'll go for a vote.
Committee members Avedisian,
Yes.
Kazarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garibian,
Yes.
and Chair Armenian.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to 5E now, please.
5D is fiscal year 2021-2022 request for funding proposal, RFP, for public social services and CDBG funding application. At 1 is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 public social services request for proposal, RFP.
Chair Armenian, members of the advisory committee, we've put together the request for proposal for public social services sample packet, which includes the instructions and the application reflecting an estimated $300,000 in available funds for fiscal year 21-22 for your review and approval. We have not changed any of the language in the application this program year. It is open to a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion as presented.
A second.
Any discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, we'll go for a vote. Sorry, Ms.
Committee members,
Again, were you going to ask a question? I just saw you reaching for your mute button.
So that I can vote.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Let's go for a vote.
committee members Avedisian,
Yes.
Kazarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garibian,
Yes.
Chair Armenian.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, we'll go on to number 6.
We're actually at 5E, Chair Armenian.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. 5E is fiscal year 2021-2022 capital improvement project request for proposal. One is a motion to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 capital improvement project request for proposal, RFP.
Chair Armenian, members of the advisory committee, we have also put together a request for proposal for capital improvement project sample packet, which includes the instructions and application reflecting an estimated $800,000 in available funds for 21-22 for your review and approval. We will update that to $900,000 once we get that to our city council in our report. So we will update that number for you. Also, staff added 2 additional questions in this year's application, which reflects the advisory committee's comments that had come up at the February 21st, 2020 meeting. Committee members had requested that applicants seeking CDBG funding should identify and prioritize facility infrastructure concerns that need to be addressed in order of logistical importance. So therefore, staff has also added the following questions to address that request in February. So if you look on page 4 of section 3, demonstrated need, we have updated a question. Has your agency thoroughly inspected, identified, and resolved any facility infrastructure concerns that may impact the proposed project in the long run? Example, is your plumbing in good condition before a bathroom remodel is considered? Is your roof in good condition before requesting solar panels to be installed on the roof? If so, what were the concerns identified? How was it addressed, and how long ago was it addressed? On page 7, in section 10 of solar panel systems, we've also updated. If the proposed solar panels will be installed on existing structure or infrastructure, please provide the maintenance history of the structure infrastructure on which the panels will be installed. Example, If proposing to install the solar panel on the roof, please provide the last time the roof was replaced and/or maintained and what the maintenance entailed. If the updated language is satisfactory to the committee, staff is requesting a motion to approve the RFP packet for CIP. Thank you.
I make a
one
motion.
comment. I have one comment. Let me start off and then I'll pass it on. Because you just mentioned the solar panel, the number D, item D. I would recommend not just asking the last time, you could also say what is the expected remaining life expectancy of the roof.
Remaining life expectancy of roof.
In addition to what you have. I mean, it's good to know when it was last replaced because then we can pinpoint that. But also, you know, sometimes particularly commercial roofs are different than residential roofs. They usually can be, their life can be a little bit longer than normal. But I think we have an expectation to know what the condition of the roof is so that we don't run into the problem we ran into last time.
Absolutely.
Chair Armenian?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to be clear, I know that specific question would be for the roof. Do we want to maybe rephrase it so that it includes other structures or infrastructures that might be placed on? Because we were thinking generally, we know the roof, but just in case the panels could be put on other structures.
Yeah, and I would ask the same question of those structures
Okay,
as well.
we'll make it more general. Thank you.
But I would use a roof. I would call out the roof because in large part, usually the solar panels are on roofs.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Avedisian, you asked for to say something.
I made a motion to approve as presented with the changes that was just suggested. Adding a couple of words.
Could I ask you
Generalizing.
to hold the motion because it seemed like we had two other committee members who had questions. Is that possible?
I think it's, we should, Mr. Chair Armenian, I think we should present the motion, then ask the questions and then clarifications
I
after
second the
fact.
motion.
Okay, so we have a second motion to approve with what we just discussed, but comments or questions?
Yeah, and I retract my needing to add a question because I think you addressed it, and I was just going to say, what is the remaining life of the affected infrastructure? You know, what is the remaining life of the affected infrastructure? Could be one way of saying that. That was all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goribian.
Obviously, we discussed this last time, and these are all came out as great. But when it comes to the solar part, what is called a roof certificate or recertifications, that it tells us the life expectancy that mostly appraisers do that. But the year roof was repaired or replaced, not necessarily anyone will know the answer to that, especially they purchased the property after a certain time period. That's a question that it's, would there be a question of yes, no, and I don't know, or because for them to research, find it, who, when it was replaced, I think that's an extra process for the agencies that it could potentially give them extra trouble. Just having a certificate or life expectancy from a professional or either the solar company themselves, because if I'm not mistaken, most of the solar installers are experts in roofs to know where they can or not, or from a roofing company or from appraisal or anyone that can give a certification. But the date when it was replaced or repaired, that could be challenging. So I would say we should maybe be more easier on that answer. Same thing, I think you mentioned the plumbing part. A lot of individuals or agencies won't know what's inside their walls in that aspect of it. So asking for certifications or today's condition, what condition it's in when they're applying versus going back into the history trying to find some answers to questions that they might not be able to answer those questions. And or if we can leave the questions, but also give them an option on those questions, not the certification in life, and have them an option of I don't know answer to those past questions. Or I didn't own something that matter. I'm just trying to say I don't want to give the agencies more difficulty than they're already going to go through for something that they won't have the answer to that.
Yeah, I was going to suggest in reaction to that, you could say something like, when the roof was last replaced, if available.
If available, right? Something like that.
Minimum requirement is that they must show a certification with a current inspection that certifies what the expected life expectancy of the roof is or structure, something like that.
Yeah, that's what my suggestion is. I don't know, is it something that staff has to change and then put in motion? I don't know how well it works.
Chair Armenian, Vice Chair Garibian, I think the questions are just examples. We are just trying to trigger for the agencies to know the type of questions we want them to answer. For the most part, if the agencies have been within that building for 20, 30 years, they most probably will have the history on when they've done the last renovation or should be able to pull the records. For the purposes of trying to have as much information before you in order for you to make an informed decision, we're trying to get the agencies to provide as much information as possible on the history of the maintenance of whatever structure or infrastructure that they are proposing to renovate. So these are just suggested questions. We could revise them if you feel that they're too restrictive and we want to be a little bit more general, but we're not necessarily putting yes, no type questions or I don't know. They're free to say they don't know if they don't have the answer to it. They're just suggestions on the type of information we're looking for when we ask them to provide a maintenance history for the structure or infrastructure for which the panels will be installed. We're just trying to think of, all the variety of project proposals we might receive, and it might not be just the roof, and it might not just be panels that are sitting on the ground. There might be some other proposals that we didn't even think of. So we're just trying to be all-inclusive in asking for the information on the maintenance history. So we could revise it if you feel it's too restrictive to be a little bit more general, as you suggested.
I was just going to add that it sounds to me like, though, we do want to have a requirement that they would provide a certification of the roof as evidence, so that it's not just, hey, answer this any way you want. In order to save ourselves some time later, because we based on our experience, we're going to be asking these questions when proposals come in. So it would be helpful and speed things up if they could provide or be required to provide, at least when it comes to a roof. Plumbing is a little bit harder, but certainly a roof is a pretty common practice in terms of getting a certification on life expectancy and inspection to validate its condition from a third party.
So we want to add, Chair Armenian, so we do want to add a requirement for certification of life expectancy for roofs, is what I'm hearing, as one of the questions.
Yeah.
And that's for the solar panel systems, section
Correct.
10? Okay.
Mr. Garibian, and then Ms. Quinones Gabriel in after.
Yeah, so just back to the staff and Chair Armenians, definitely, because the other ones, whether plumbing or electric or whatever it will be very hard to, so those we can leave that question format. At least we have something to lean on if they have answers. But the roof, definitely some kind of a certification, because there's so many different kinds. That I think it should be definitely more of a mandatory versus just a question. So roof certification, definitely, and it definitely helps them, because if they think it's time, might as well they can apply for roof repair as well. But yes, definitely roof certification I will recommend or follow with the recommendation to be a mandatory part of the application for solar purposes.
Great. Quinones Gabrielian.
Thank you. Yes, I also agree with the roof certification, but it brought another aspect more general to mind. When there are large investments in the community, and I wonder, does our staff or do our staff members do site visits?
Chair Armenian, Committee Member Gabrielian, yes, we do. We actually do site visits. We do a pre-construction meeting. We do daily or weekly, I should say, site visits and meet with the actual the construction staff, and we do payroll records with them. And we are always in communication with the construction crew, the general contractor, the agency itself, and the architect. And then
Great.
we end the project with a monitoring, and when they do the punch list, we are on site for that as well. And then throughout the completion, where it's the notice of completion is recorded with the LA County,
Thank you very much.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, if not, then let's go for a vote.
Committee members Avedisian,
Yes.
Kazarian,
Yes.
Quinones Gabrielian,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garibian,
Yes.
Chair Armenian.
Yes.
A motion carries.
Now we are
Item 6. Yes. Item 6 is committee staff comments.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please go ahead,
this is
Mr. Avedisian.
Avedisian.
Go ahead, Mr. Avedisian.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the staff, first of all, that being extremely helpful throughout this 1 year, and especially in this special circumstances and the situation that we are with the COVID, and how they maneuvered around and got things done. Helped me out a lot, gave me more directions, and we had this virtual meetings and getting everything done. They really, I think, came out and did an awesome job, as always. I really appreciate their work. Mrs. Karavian, Mrs. Alexanian, Adamian, our newbie, he's done an extremely well job for a start. You know, we appreciate your work and effort that you're making it even better every time. And also, of course, I want to thank every single committee member that we serve. Mrs. Ramirez, it was an honor serve with you. You're a great person, great committee member. We worked hard and we worked well together. Wish you all well. Our every single committee members that we served, Mr. Garibian, Mr. Ghazarian, and Chair Armenian. Again, thank you for everything that we did, and I appreciate the vote of confidence to allow me to chair the committee for last year. And also, as I mentioned earlier, I want to again welcome Mr. Anita Gabrielian to the committee, and I hope that we can work. Hopefully soon we can have an actual meeting in person, not in virtual. It's easier to communicate and easier to work, get things done. Anyhow, again, I appreciate everything that is done, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Avedisian. Other comments? Mr. Garibian?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for, again, preparing in these tough situations with remotely working in most cases or with the COVID. Thanks for preparing for today's meeting. Looking forward to all the agencies that we can help this coming year, hopefully with less concern with the COVID situations and more hands-on being able to help our agencies and their members. And thank you so much to the staff, and congratulations to our chair, Armenia, for his nomination as the chair, leading us in these hard times with the COVID moving forward.
Other comment?
I just want to say thank you. I love this first meeting. I felt like I could have a very open discussion. I want to thank you again for your warm welcome, and congratulations to our new chairman and vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lazarian, I don't see you, so that's why I'm calling upon you in case you want to say something.
I want to thank you, all the staff, the hard work that they're doing, and congratulate the new chairman and the vice.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go next. I want to first of all thank outgoing chairman, Mr. Avedikian, for all his hard work in keeping us on track for the past year. Really appreciate that, and I'll look forward to his continuing participation and work on the committee moving forward. I want to once again welcome Ms. Quinones Gabrielian. You've already made a great contribution even in your first meeting, so appreciate you jumping all in. We're obviously going to learn a lot from your questions, and it's good to have a fresh perspective. So the questions are always welcome. Also thanking Ms. Ramirez again for her service for all these years to this committee. Her insights were valuable, and I'm sure she may even participate and give us other insights even when she's not on the committee. Would welcome that. And finally, staff, I really appreciate all the work that you always do. You're so thorough, and it helps us do our work efficiently. And we also appreciate your willingness to engage with us in discussions around these things, even if sometimes we don't agree. But you're always so gracious and welcoming of input, and we really appreciate that. And thank you to all my committee members for your support. For being the chair for the next year, and I hope to fulfill all your expectations of me in terms of that position. Look forward to working with everyone to continue benefiting the community. We have organizations that do tremendous work in Glendale. I see a lot of cities in my work because I had a similar job as Ms. Quinones Gabrielian, and what sets Glendale apart is the collaboration and the work that we have on the community organization level, the caring of all its citizens, and making sure that we don't leave people behind in our city, which is always a challenge. So it's important work that we do here, and it's tremendously fulfilling to be a part of it, and it's an honor. With that, staff, is there anything else you would like to say?
Thank you very much, Chair Armenian, members of the CDBG Advisory Committee. Wanted to bring to your attention a couple of important dates. October 20th, we're set to go to City Council for the reprogram funds of the YWCA returned funding for $219,000. We're set for City Council on October 20th in the afternoon for that. And on November 3rd, Election Day, we are set to approve the preliminary proposed action plan with all the recommendations you have made today. I am going to turn over the mic to my colleague, Eric Adamian, and our new committee member, Quinones Gabrielian, brought up a very good point about completion of projects. This is a really neat thing that Eric will share with you, and it really sets the tone of what we're going to be doing this year and what we've done in the past. So, Eric?
Chair Armenian, members of the committee, staff has a video presentation from our completed capital improvement project. This was the YWCA of Glendale Sunrise Village Emergency Shelter, garage conversion, and renovation. This project was completed sometime in April of 2020. This project site is an undisclosed location. This video is from Tara Peterson, the CEO of YWCA of Glendale, and it is a great example of the CDBG dollars at work and the impact CDBG makes in our community. So bear with me while I get the video going. Thank you.
everyone, I'm Tara Peterson, CEO of the YWCA Glendale. And I am excited to welcome you and take you on a tour of our Sunrise Village emergency shelter for victims of domestic violence and their children. YWCA Glendale has a long history of meeting women's needs for safe and secure housing. We began in the 1930s housing single women during the Great Depression. Our services have continued to evolve to meet the needs of our community. In 1979, we opened our domestic violence shelter, which houses over 75 women and children each year.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sagun, the Director of DV Programs, and I lead the team here at Sunrise Village that supports all our participants on their healing journey. While our participants are at Sunrise Village, we support them with clothing, food, resources, emotional support, and any other service that they may need to navigate while residing here at the shelter. We also provide case management services, legal services, counseling services, housing, and child care to help them on this journey. Survivors stay an average of 45 days in our shelter, and during that time, we assist them with enrolling their children in school and getting to key appointments to address their social, financial, medical, and legal needs. Our goal is to help 100% of survivors move into safe and stable housing when they leave our program. We even have a housing navigation program that helps identify housing opportunities and secures rental deposits and household items to support survivors in making the transition into a new home. To support our Sunrise Village residents, we've created a new housing plan that allows each family their own private room, including designating a room for isolation if a family member were to present any COVID symptoms. Here, they have their own refrigerator and bathroom and are able to safely recuperate without having to interact with other families.
This year, with support of the Gwendolyn Sexton Foundation, the Amundsen Foundation, the City of Glendale Community Development Block Grant, the Agape Circle of the Western Diocese of the Armenian Church, we were able to add an additional 4 beds, and we are now able to serve 16 women and children who are in need. We were also able to transform our garage into a safe place for women to receive emotional support and counseling during their stay at the Sunrise Village Emergency Shelter.
Hi, my name is Kuki Limon, and I'm the Shelter Supervisor for Sunrise Village. At Shelter, we answer our 24-hour crisis hotline. In a year, we answer over 1,500 calls, where we provide callers 24-hour resources, safety planning, confidentiality, and if needed, safety transfer to our shelter. Due to COVID-19, the demand for shelter and a safe place has never been higher. The COVID-19 pandemic has sharply increased incidents of domestic violence as survivors are sheltering in place with their abusers and are removed from their networks of support, extended family, friends, school, work, and place of worship.
We are so grateful to our community of funders for supporting us so we can rise to this moment of meeting the increased demand for our services. Our new expanded capacity has been a lifeline for so many families, and we want to continue building out our space in a way that meets the needs of the families we shelter. We are now in the final stages of our shelter beautification project and are currently breaking ground on a landscaping project to create a welcoming and private outdoor space for children to play and for families to connect and heal. Families will have the opportunity to have fun on the playground, to garden, or to just relax in the warmth of the sun. Thank you for coming on our tour today. We would love for you to support our transformational work that you were able to see here today by making a donation at glendaleYWCA.org. We look forward to connecting with you soon. Be safe and be well.
That's great. Really appreciate all the work that the YWCA does. We've been supporting them throughout the years for a variety of their activities. and specifically working with Tara Peterson. So really appreciate the opportunity to see the results of that work. And for your benefit, Ms. Quinones Gabriel, and we also try to do a tour of different facilities and organizations that we give to get to familiarize ourselves a little bit more with their work. And we usually divide that up in terms of Brown Act. We divide up into two-person teams, and then staff sets up meetings. So we'll look to do that again with you involved, so that you can also get a closer look at all the good work going on in our community.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations, I think, for this wonderful project. I'm a proud past executive board member of the YWCA, so I know the incredible work they do, and it's so nice that we are supporting such great organizations. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from staff?
Chair Armenian and members of the committee working remotely, I will send everyone the link just in case you were not able to see it through the shared screen. Thank you.
That would be great. Thank you. Other staff comments? Okay, if not, then we will call this meeting adjourned at 4:49 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.